Hello, and welcome to another episode of Chit Chat, the Game of Thrones edition. Uh, this is our review for Season 6, Episode 3, called Oathbreaker. We did try this earlier in the week, and it went horribly wrong, so hopefully, fingers crossed, that we managed to do it again this week. Um, let's just get kicked off. We'll start with the events of King's Landing, because me and Tom spoke about it, but it went it didn't go too well. So we'll start off. We'll start off by getting your thoughts on that. Two scenes really. I sort of think they go side by side. Firstly, the Cersei, Jaime, and the mountain scene with Qyburn, and then later their interaction with the small council. Just your thoughts on that, if you can remember it, because it was so long ago.
Whose? Sorry, mine? Or
Yeah.
um. Oh. Yeah. Sorry. I've watched it once and like 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
However long.
No, don't worry. My memory's got a bit horrible on this as well.
It was that scene. I liked that they we finally get to see the little birds and everything. That's kind of cool. Like it's kind of mentioned that they might be children, and though Varys is very he seems very well. No, he doesn't seem straight in the sexual term, but he seems quite. He pushes away any sort of suggestion at the paedophilic or homosexual rumors. I don't know. Seeing the kids, I don't think it was actually put out there that Varys has touched these children. I don't think that, but it finally to actually see them was kind of interesting. What exactly happened in that scene? He gives them some sweets, and he says the kids are like, "Oh, he was always nice to us," but other than before Cersei gets there, is there anything significant made there?
That's basically it. Is that yeah, he sort of just shows that Qyburn's sort of gaining control on the little birds. But we'll get Tom's thoughts in a minute. But he had an interesting point about how he still thinks Varys might still be in control because obviously Varys wouldn't so easily let his network of spies go into the hands of someone else. So that'd be interesting to see. But yeah, it was basically just giving an insight, because we've heard so much about the spies and the networks, but we haven't actually seen how it works. I always thought of that as quite mythical in the books, but it's quite interesting to see how logical it is. Tom mentioned last week, when we did it before, that in the books they actually cut out their tongues so they can't speak. So it was interesting to see that they made that minor change in the show, but I suppose it's a way of simplifying that interaction about how the little birds get their messages back to Qyburn. But
I can tell. I can tell like how you said that Tom said that it was very. He wouldn't lose his grip on all of those spies, but he is on the other side of the world, and I guess. Tom, did you have an argument against that, or how do you think he's kept control over them?
Well, it's one thing we do know is that he's had them from birth, because the way especially in the books, I don't know, they could go a different way in the show, but in the books, in the down in the dungeons with Ilaria or Morpatis. Varys says, "Oh, I need more little birds," and he's like, "How many this time?" and whatnot. And they're not easy to get.
Yeah.
And the kind of implication is that he gets them from birth, basically. And obviously, getting babies is difficult. Is more difficult than children. They're just kind of dregs of King's Landing and whatnot. I think that it's because it's a very slow and gradual process, kind of implementing all these little spies in different places across the world. So even though, yeah, I agree that they're fickle in terms of like they could be turned against someone else's side, but what I'm saying, but that kind of lends to the fact that Cersei, Jaime, and Qyburn aren't going to get any reliable information in the right ways because they don't know how to use the spies. Just having spies isn't enough. They don't know how to use them in the right means, and they don't really know how Varys kept their loyalty either. I mean, we see the Sweets is like a little red heading, like, you know, Sweets isn't going to keep is not going to keep the loyalty, or there must be something more to it that we don't know about. That's what I was saying basically. But a lot of it's conjecture as well. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But I think, as I said to Glenn earlier, I was talking about this whole episode is based on lies, lying, deception, manipulation, all that kind of thing. And this scene, in my opinion, was just kind of testament to that. And the whole thing. Even we talked about Qyburn as well a bit, about how I think that he's got his own motives, and that he's serving Cersei at the moment, but you know he's this kind of mad scientist figure that he serves Cersei because Cersei's the one that's letting him do these little abominations with Sir Robert Strong and whatnot. So she's giving it wholly to him with the spy network, so he doesn't have any. That's what you get when you meddle with kind of disreputable characters, and the Lannisters are downfall anyway, so he could easily jump ship. It's not him. But yeah, what did you think, then?
What?
Sorry, it takes me a while to unmute my mic. Just because I sort of like thought he was wholly loyal to Cersei, but I was also questioning that, like, if he is loyal, then for what reasons? And obviously, if he isn't, I want to know what his motives are. So he's an intriguing character that I feel needs to be delved into more, because he is that sort of mad scientist sort of figure that I feel like there's more to him than just that as well. There should be more motivation for his character rather than just like experimenting with things. So like I just want to know why he is that character. Obviously, he might be based. George R. R. Martin likes to base his characters on real historical figures, so he might be based on some sort of experimental figure that was in the past who maybe used to do these sort of strange experiments with trying to bring people back to life and all that. I'm not 100% sure who exactly that could be, but he's an interesting character to me, and he's sort of an opposite figure to Varys. But it's interesting to see him use the same tactics that Varys is using, and it'd be interesting to see how much of a influence Varys still has in King's Landing through his little birds. So I thought that was an interesting scene, just to sort of let people in on what the spy network is, because, like I said, we've heard Littlefinger talk about it, we've heard Varys talk about it, and now Qyburn's utilizing it. So it's interesting to see that actually play out on screen. But that's mainly what unless you've got anything else to add, Ryan.
The kids, the fact that they showed Robert Strong and the kids kind of their reaction to you can't really see Robert Strong's reaction to them, but that's the thing. There doesn't seem to be much of a reaction at all. Like, he's so very distant. I want to see more of him to see if he is purely just completely what's the word, like, that they have full control over him, or is he just gonna go mental? I don't know. The fact that anyone can die in this show, and now we know that kids aren't safe as well. I feel like Qyburn's he's gonna screw over Cersei something's going to happen where Robert Strong's going to kill a load of kids just to show how lethal and completely all of his morals are completely gone. I just wouldn't be surprised, because now I just feel like anything can happen now. And if they don't, but that's the thing. I used to love this show for the shocks, and yeah, there's been bad shocks this season so far. I don't feel there's been any kind of good ones. And I'm not saying children dying is a good shock, but it's a shock that got the show views, got the show. It's got it where it is today. I feel like that scene with Oberyn's head being smashed in. Oh, thanks. Cheers. Hey, I'm busy. Yeah, yes. Very nice. Go away. Guys, you take over.
All right. What scene do you want to go on to next then? 'Cause I think actually, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the Lannisters and the spy network. Do you think it's effective? Do you think it's going to work, etc.?
That's a strange thing about it. I don't really know what they really want to find out. Like, are they still even worried about finding the Stark children? I don't think so. Are they still dirt on the Tyrells? I don't really think so. Their main like problem at the moment is the High Sparrow. So I don't really know what they're trying to find out about him, like his past. But he's quite open about his previous sins and that. So I'm not really sure if they want to find out too much more. So that scene, I think that was more Qyburn using his little birds rather than utilizing for the Lannisters, because I don't really know what the Lannisters' motives for using them would be at the moment. It's always useful to have spies, but I don't really know what because Cersei and Jaime seem wholeheartedly focused on taking out this Faith militant and getting revenge on the High Sparrow and fuck them all, that sort of speech. So I don't really know how they utilize the spies. But did you have a theory on it or anything?
I think fuck them all literally doesn't mean fuck them all though, but I'll talk about this a bit later, but I think Jaime and Cersei's character have been merged into one in terms of this is vengeance against everyone. It's just a signifier for the downfall of being imminent, really, because I talked about this before about how you need allies in this world, and fuck them all's not going to work. The Lannisters were only powerful because of what Tywin did for them. They were fairly powerful before that, but you've got to build and build and build, and you've got to use alliances, and you've got to war when necessary, the Red Wedding when necessary, but neither of them grasp any concept of politics. They don't know how to rule. They're just about the worst rulers you can get. Pure ego, no knowledge. They have no interest in, Tywin, kind of Ned knew the ins and outs of his kingdom, what was going on. Yeah, you can argue, he did die, but from Tyrion's crossbow, and you can argue he didn't know about the Red Keep and whatnot, but it was all about building up prestige, and they don't understand any aspect of that, and it's really complex, is my argument. But yeah.
Well, should we move on from Qyburn and that scene to? Did you want to move on to the small council, or do you think we've covered what the Lannisters' motivations are for that anyway? Did you have any thoughts on that small council scene?
Ryan can if he wants, but all I'll say about that is that it just further signified the Lannisters' downfall, particularly Jaime and Cersei, and Kevin Lannister and Olenna Tyrell are trying to kind of pick up the pieces of this absolute mess and just trying to be reasonable, and they're on Tywin's level and they're kind of understanding what needs to be done. And they probably don't even necessarily like each other, but that just signified how Jaime and Cersei came across to me as petulant children that don't understand anything, which is sad for Jaime because he was kind of starting to in his book arc, he was really starting to negotiate well with people, and yeah, he knew that he had such a tainted reputation, but he built his way around that. He just kind of learned to be reasonable and whatnot. But I'll let Brian talk a bit on that.
If from that scene, do you think that if Cersei and Jaime order, well, if anyone is going to, it would be Cersei orders Robert Strong to kill, it's their uncle, isn't it? I think the Hand of the King right now. Do you think that would happen? Because at the moment, they're showing all of this power just falling through their hands. I feel like if she orders any of the others' deaths, do you think the loyalty of the men, like, I'm going to guess that surely they've still got Lannister armies. It's not just like they all follow the king. So I don't feel like Tommen's going to have any power over anyone.
Yeah, they're in King's Landing now, aren't they? So they
Yeah.
have an army to speak of as such, and the city watch is larger than any army in King's Landing.
Yeah.
So that's why the Faith Militant are able to take over, basically.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to kill any of them? Do you think that was a scene of going, okay, I felt like the scene was, first of all, the first one of most of those characters in this season, so I felt like it was just a reminder a little bit of, oh yeah, these guys are still around. But at the same time, it's showing the lack of power that they now have, Cersei and Jaime have. But I think it might also be, here's these characters, here they are dying, like next time or something, like here they are being murdered by Robert Strong or whoever.
Well, I think something to serve as a catalyst for the break between Cersei and Jaime, and I think it'll be something extreme that Cersei commands or tells him about or has done, and that's when he's gonna leave. I don't think the same potential of Riverland as in the books, but for some reason, Jaime will go and start to have his own character and progression, because at the moment he's a twin. They're just saying the same things, acting the same things, got the same desires, etc., etc., etc. So I think them two will go a different ways.
What do you think is going to send him off then? Do you think it's going to be something that they don't agree on? Because there is a lot they don't agree on, especially when it comes to Tyrion. So do you think it will be Tyrion based or Brienne based, or just something Cersei does that he just completely doesn't agree with, like slaughtering children or something, that will send him away?
I don't think it'll be anything necessarily like he disagrees strongly with morally. It'll just be something that he understands is a terrible decision and it's not going to work, maybe. But I don't know. I'd just be like speculating. It could be so many things, especially with something related to Tomm and something related to the Sparrows. It's really, I don't know. It's hard to get. What do you think?
Yeah, I just think like that scene emphasised to me how little power that Cersei has now. There was a comment about she references herself being the queen, or she says something about they've made the queen walk in public or something. I can't remember the exact quote, but she references herself being the queen, and then someone says to her, "You're not the queen, Marjorie's the queen." So that was just like a little underlying dig that was there, but I feel like that was peppered throughout the whole scene, and also the fact that she does threaten them with, even if she doesn't necessarily outright say it, she threatens them with the presence of Robert Strong, because I mean, half of that small council is very weak. I'm thinking Pycelle, Miss, Tyrell. They're not exactly the strongest backbones in Westeros, so I can see them in the past being intimidated by this, but then you've got the other side of that, which was Kevin and Elena. Yeah, they basically just say to her, look, we don't have to have this small council here with you in presence. We can just move it somewhere else, which I found quite funny. Because that idea of tradition and that, to have the small council meeting in there, yeah, why can't they just have it wherever they want? But also, just in terms of Cersei's power or lack thereof, it was kind of interesting to see. And you sort of do get glimpses of Jaime sort of, even though he's standing beside her and having that strength, you sort of see sometimes that he's giving her looks and giving her little, they're just sort of giving little hints to the fact that there might be some sort of split between the two. So I do think we're going to get that storyline from the books, which is basically Jaime's unwilling to help her out when she's in her need. But I also think it'll happen a lot differently in the show. So I'd be interested to see where that goes. But that scene in general is just, to me, emphasised the lack of power that Cersei has. And that's all I thought about it, really.
All right,
So,
John, move on then. Next one.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Ryan.
Sorry.
One of us is talking because it echoes apparently. Do you know how to do that?
Do what? Sorry. Well, mute myself.
Yeah, when one of us is talking, we just mute our own mics because then it echoes otherwise. Yeah, like that. Alright. Yeah, should we move on to the High Sparrow and Tommen's interaction then? While we're still in King's Landing, because I thought that was quite interesting. I'll just start because it's easier that way. But I found the whole scene interesting in general, just in terms of the different beats that it hits. You start off with very aggressive tones, with Tommen coming in with his whole King's Guard, or his King Guard's -2, and then also the High Sparrow across. You sort of get that standoff, but then the High Sparrow does his usual manipulative techniques and manages to calm the situation down, and it ends up with just Tommen and the High Sparrow sitting next to each other. And I just thought it showed, in general, how much control the High Sparrow does have in certain situations. We've seen it on a number of occasions now. He managed to manipulate Cersei, even though Cersei needed that sort of militant power, or she felt she needed a militant power to regain control in King's Landing. He manipulated her into making her have faith in him, and sort of played the sort of unknowledgeable, unknowledgeable, like, religious fanatic, to sort of put her in that false sense of security where she feels like, oh, I'll give this guy the power, but when I don't need him anymore, he'll be easy to push over. So I thought he did well there. And then we get this season where he speaks to Jaime about overthrowing an empire. He says it directly to his face, full well knowing that at that moment in time, Jaime can't do anything about it, and Jaime's basically gone there to threaten in hopes that the High Sparrow will roll over. But in actual fact, Jaime knows in his own mind that he's not really capable, especially with losing his main power, which is his right hand, I believe. He's lost that sort of fighting ability to back up those threats anymore. And then I feel like that culminated in this scene with Tommen, where he treats him like a child, basically, and sits him down to explain the whole situation to him. And just a little aside, Tommen actually uses the quote that Joffrey uses earlier in, I think it was about season 3, where Joffrey says, "I am the king." And I thought that was interesting to show, because Tywin said to Joffrey at that instance, any king that has to say, "I am the king," is no king at all. So I thought that was a good reminder to fans that were paying attention, that Tommen, he's only king by name. He's not a ruler at all, and I feel like they're setting up ultimately Tommen's lack of ability to rule, and that'll have major consequences for the rest of the season. But yeah, I feel like I covered a lot there. So if you wanted, you guys, we'll go to you, Tom. Just
Yeah, I thought that the High Sparrow's talk with Tommen wasn't. It did seem like an education or a lesson in terms of it was just the High Sparrow was just telling him his perspective, how he viewed the world. A lot of it was piety, but a lot of it was kind of just his moral compass in the world that he sees it, and kind of just doing your best to implement that as much as you possibly can do. Tommen's a child, and everybody's. I've seen online everyone's slagging Tommen off and stuff and saying, "Oh, he's a terrible ruler and whatnot." But that's just what a child would act like. That's just what any child would act like. He's he's very very young in the books. He's a little bit older in the show, but that's what the majority of people would act like. We see Joffrey inflicting his horrible machinations on everybody else, but Joffrey's a sadist, and his power was from a false sense of security. He thought that the kingship just made him be able to do whatever he wanted, which wasn't the truth anyway. I mean, he didn't last very long, did he? Ruling like that. But yeah, I thought that the High Sparrow. I'm very interested to see where we're going to go with this, because I feel like something big is coming up and needs to happen now, because we've kind of had the build up and the build up and the build up, but we've not kind of had the logistics of how this is important in terms of everybody else. I'd like to see them actually take over King's Landing and say, right, the faith are what are ruling over us, like in conjunction with a crown, and maybe Tommen's a puppet stood beside him, whatnot, like they did 1,000 years ago, or whatnot, or what he keeps talking about with Maegor and that. But yeah, so I'd really like to see the actual overthrow now. It's interesting hearing the High Sparrow talking. I'm kind of trying to decipher what he means by it all. But I definitely think that he does believe everything he says. A lot of people talked about how he's got his own agenda and whatnot. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think his agenda is what he's telling it to everyone's face. It's just the logistics of actually doing it, how it affects the rest of the kingdom. That's what I'm interested in seeing. What do you think, Ryan?
I don't know whether we're supposed to like or dislike this character. Like he, every time he's in a scene, I'm excited that something different's going to happen, because all we've seen is him slyly threatening whoever he's talking to, be it like with Jamie, where he does it straight to his face, or slightly in this scene with Tom, and I thought it was almost so obvious that he's everything he was saying slightly. It was, I can't remember exactly what he said, sorry, but when I was watching it, I remember thinking, like, surely Tommen realizes everything that's going on, everything that he's put his mum through, and that his mum has also tricked him before. Does he not realize that he's doing the exact same thing that his mum's done to him? And just just the way he was talking to him, it was like it shows that Tommen is a child. There's no rulership there. There's no way he's gonna all of a sudden. He's not going to be the one that just comes up and is like, oh, off with his head or whatever. He's the one that's going to get screwed over here, and I'm interested to see who's going to do it. Like you said, I think, like you said, Tom, I think that the Sparrows are they're gonna take over. They're going to use him as a puppet. There's no bit there that they're going to go against him at all. It's gonna be they're working together, and Cersei's gonna technically see that as losing her last child, because I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes over to the faith and he becomes a nut job like her cousin did as well.
I've just had a thought now. Ryan, me and you both said about how it's going to be a puppet. But I think what's actually going to happen is that I don't know how they would do it, but I feel like that Jamie already admitted it to the High Sparrow, but I feel like they're going to prove that Tommen isn't the rightful heir, and that's how they're going to strip him of his power. By legitimate means, not by bloodshed, because that's not what... I mean, Cersei's atoning for crimes that she actually did, or they believe she did, and she's been she's on trial and whatnot. Tommen being born of incest and whatnot, I don't think they're going to punish him, but they're going to strip him of his crown because of it. Yeah. Sorry, go
on. No, that's interesting because what would they do with him? I know that he comes from a wealthy family, and they'll probably be like, oh, we'll strip him of the crown, but he'll be fine because he's part of this family that they're going to look after him. It's not like they're just throwing him out onto the streets. But I feel like they do have the means to, if they wanted to, just throw them over by brute force. The amount of number of them, just if they did decide to just take away his crown, they're not gonna go away quietly. Especially Cersei and Jaime, they're not just gonna have that. But they've got the numbers there to fight him back. It's interesting. It will be interesting to see. As for this thing, it was interesting to finally see Tommen try again, actually trying to fight back and actually prove that he can rule. But it's just, I think it was just to show us again that this isn't going to go the way that you're hoping. I don't know. Glenn, do you hope that the Sparrows take over, or do you hope that Tommen?
That's the thing. I don't feel there's like anyone to root for in this situation. Like, we don't like that. The thing with the Game of Thrones universe, the only real ones you sort of get behind are the Starks, because they're wholly, about honor and family and loyalty, like all things that a human should have morally. But then you look at houses like the Lannisters, and they're very much about the real world and like using that, using legitimate tactics to gain a foothold in this world and build the house to make them strong. I think Cersei tries to do that, but she's useless at it. She's not Tywin's heir, really. She's like Tomm said before, she's a petulant child sometimes. So her ideals of power and control are completely different to what Tywin was trying to get at. So, but yeah, in terms of the faith, the Lannisters / Baratheons, I don't really think there is a side to fall on in that. I think it's more about the self-implosion of King's Landing. Like, from the start of the very first season, we see King's Landing as this power ruled by the Lannisters, because that in all honesty they were the true rulers there, because Robb Baratheon was a pretty useless ruler. But yeah, we see it as like the capital of Westeros, and now it sort of feels like a false seat, and it's just ready to collapse on itself. You could use examples like the fact that the Lannisters ran out of money. They've had to borrow from the Iron Bank. Now the Tyrells are part of the royal family, and now the Faith have a big standing in the city. So I think all these events are just building up to one individual character demises, in terms of like Cersei and her family. Like, we've seen her children die, I think Tommen's just the next step for that. And just King's Landing in general collapsing, because I feel like at the end of it, the Iron Throne is going to be insignificant, and if it is significant, it'll be under a new regime, like under a new. It won't be I'm the king and I rule the Seven Kingdoms. It'll be a sort of introduction to a democratic world. So that's what I think. That's like way down the line, though, but that's what I think might happen.
You can't steal my idea.
No, I agree. I agree with your idea. I agree with the whole it ended up in democracy, because at the end of the day, that's sort of the idea. I think George R. R. Martin overall is trying to get over that idea of evolution in terms of culture and revolution in terms of like his historical basis. So yeah, do you have anything to add on those things? Because yeah, like you said that you did, you also have.
No, I'm done for this scene. I think we should move on. Maybe do Sam and Gilly.
Yeah, I was thinking Sam and Gilly as well. Yeah, I don't know. I would have rather we met them when they arrived at Hornhill. Is it Hornhill? Sam's house. Because, all right, yeah, they're trying to remind you of Sam and Gilly's relationship. They're trying to give you a hint of where they're going. Sam's going to Old Town, the Citadel, and Gilly's was supposed to be going to Old Town, but now she's going to Hornhill, which is Sam's house. So, yeah, it was fine to see them again. I wasn't really too overly interested. I thought it was a weird change of pace as well for the episode because of that, because so much did happen later on in the episode, which we'll get onto later. But I feel like it was just basically a reintroduction. I felt like they could have included that in the first episode, when they were reintroducing all the characters and where they're going and what they're doing. So I didn't really have much of an opinion on that, other than the fact it was just reiterating Sam and Gilly's relationship and where they're headed. So I'd like to get your guys' thoughts.
I must say, first of all, the first thing that I thought about the scene was, don't know her name, the actress, but Gilly's acting in it was absolutely boring. Like I don't remember her seeming to be so uninvested in a scene before. Like literally everything she was saying is like, Sam, are you okay? Like I just remember that scene because of her acting. Now I can't look past anything else, but I like you said, Glenn, I don't think there was much about the scene. Just reintroducing the characters, where they're going. I think it's not till we get to Hornhill whether we're going to see anything interesting. It'd be interesting to see if they actually do show that, or if it's just like they will see Sam throwing her in.
No, it's been confirmed that
okay.
they cast his dad. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so that would be interesting to see. To actually put a face to the name and everything. I don't think she'll end up staying there. If anything, I think the baby might stay there. Do you think she'd leave the baby? Actually, I think she might end up leaving the baby and just going with sneaking, like running off to Sam, or taking the baby with her. I don't know. To be honest, it doesn't really interest me. I'm not too interested in either of their stories. If he's going off to be a Maester, unless something interesting, like some sort of weird, I don't know, let's say like the Maesters, there's some weird conspiracy going on there or something, that might be interesting. If there isn't, I don't see how it's going to be interesting to watch. surely it takes years to become a maester, and that he's not just going to walk in, and then 5 episodes later, it's not going to be like Arya going through all that. That to become part of the faceless men, and that surely that must take years. It can't just. I know it's been months technically, but surely it takes long to become a maester. I know he's into all his reading and that, but yeah, I hope not to see him too much of them over this season. I'd much rather see other characters. But Tom.
Yeah, it's interesting to talk about Sam and him becoming a maester and taking years. I thought the exact same thing, and I've been kind of wondering about that. It does. I saw an interview with George R. R. Martin where he talked about the timing of everything being one of the biggest problems it has in writing, because, like, especially with the children characters, you want to see progression. You want to see them grow up as people, and kind of by the end of it, you want to see them at a kind of mature age to be able to make good, rational decisions. And that's a big problem because you can't say, oh, 10 years later, nothing actually happened, even though there's been wars after assassinations after assassinations. Nothing happened in these 10 years, or just a recap. So it's a really big storytelling issue that, especially with Sam, and then you wonder, like, yeah, he has to learn a lot there. I mean, John wanted a Meister. John's dad had been reborn by the time Sam's just travelled there, as it is. So that's a big issue that I think it'll be really hard to find a way around. About the scene itself, I agree with what you were saying, Ryan. I thought it was a bit flat. And I think I didn't notice as much with Gilly, but I think you're probably spot on with that because it kind of didn't leave an imprint of any kind. It's the only romance of any kind we've got in the show, I believe. So not on Sam though. I think I've seen a lot of interviews, not a lot of interviews, but I've seen 1 or 2 interviews with the actor, and he's like a supremely intelligent guy that's radically different from the Sam Tyler that we see on screen, and I think he's an amazing actor because he's really intelligent and he really understands the character really well. I've seen in interviews, and I thought he did well with the comic relief, and I think he's one of the best actors we've got. So he kind of, for all Gilly's flatness, I thought he tried to do the best he could this scene. In terms of him becoming a maester, I don't know how much we'll say about that. But yeah, that's all I've got to say on that. By the way, Samuel Tarly is George R. R. Martin. He's made himself in fiction. Everything about him.
That's why he gets to do all the coolest shit, like kill a white, you know. So, yeah.
Not only is it George R. R. Martin, is George R. R. Martin telling everybody that, like, first of all, looks can be deceiving with the main tropes throughout all of it. Secondly, you know, the value of people. The medieval, his dad didn't want him because he couldn't fight and lead and be boisterous and whatnot. But he's so well read and he's so intelligent. And look at he got Jon Snow elected and whatnot. But yeah.
What I was saying about it wouldn't be interesting unless there was a conspiracy in Old Town. This is more about the books real quick, but isn't there, it's been a while since I've read them, but I remember there being a few scenes where chapters where there's a bunch of people talking. I can't remember their names or anything, but one of them goes off and then he's meeting up with someone and they've got a key, or is it one of the faceless men? Can either of you remember this? Like, it happens in Old Town.
I know what you're talking about. It's like an introductory chapter to one of the. It's like a prologue or an epilogue to one of the books, but I can't remember. The only thing I can remember is that I think that's supposed to be Jaqen H'ghar because he's got the same scar across his face that Jaqen wears when Arya interacts with him. So I think that's what's supposed to happen, but I can't remember who's killing or where the guy's going or what he's doing. So I need to read that chapter again. But yeah.
And isn't the part where in the book as well, Sam shows up to Old Town, and I might be going this completely wrong, but something about a candle burning in the room, Is that right? I remember there being a black candle, and it was like it wouldn't. Am I completely getting this wrong, or am I getting this from another book or something? There being a black candle.
The black, God, I forget the name of it. The black wax candle that you hold and it cuts your hand. There's some suggestions and theories about them being used to spy on other people. We've not seen much of the Citadel at all, so it's really, really like mysterious. And there's also a scene in the books about how he talks about killing dragons as well, and about how the magic has been, God, I can't think of the word, reignited after hundreds of years with their birth, and that there's a lot of secrets and magic and power within that. And there's a character, I can't remember the name, that claims to be able to kill dragons. So yeah, but basically, I think that there's a lot of like potential to interesting things there. The Citadel itself reminds me of just magic and a lot of other fantasy that I've read. But yeah, there's also an assassination in the books with you get the dumb POV character that gets assassinated. That fancies a girl, but it's very brief, and I'll have to revisit it because I can't remember, so it's no point speculating.
Yeah, no. Sorry to divert from the show, but I'm interested to see where they are taking us, because otherwise it's going to be really boring just watching him learn to be a maester. But
it's Sam's uni days. He's going to get there on Freshers Week. He's going to get pissed, get another girl pregnant, you know. Yeah, should we move on from Sam and Gilly then? And we can either go. We'll go to Arya's scene because I thought that was so far her best one that we've had so far. The fight with the Waif, the sort of training montage that we got. Yeah, and she regains her sight.
You're the best
so
around.
a little music, yeah. No, I just thought it was a very well put together scene. It felt a lot more cinematic than a lot of the rest of the show does. Like in terms of quick cuts and like change in time and all that stuff. So I thought it was a fun scene to watch, but also a lot of what was said between the Waif and Arya when they were playing the lion game, which is that where she has to say something that she's not telling the truth about, and then the Waif has to guess whether she's telling the truth or not by her facial expressions. So I thought that was good. I think they have included that game before, but it was good to see it more. Like Arya's getting better at it, but also like I found it interesting her discussion about the Hound and how she didn't outright kill him, and the Hound wasn't actually on her list anymore at the time of what we believe is his death, but if you believe the theories about him and his brother, then he's not actually dead. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting character development, because when she leaves the Hound, we don't actually get an explanation about why she just doesn't stab him in the throat, which okay, is good because you don't need to over-explain every character decision, and it's good for fans to speculate, and also it's also good thematically in terms of letting you make your own opinions about the character. But I did think it was good for Arya to come out and say that the Hound was off her list, and that despite the fact that she acknowledges his the fact that he killed the butcher's boy, she still sort of understands why he did it and what his reasons for. So I feel like that sort of delved deeper into Arya's perspective on things, and that she's not just a mindless revenge killer. She does weigh up the options of who she's getting revenge on, and she knows exactly what her motives for revenge is. So I thought that was a good scene between the two, and I also thought it was a little reminder of the Hound's existence, just in case we do get that. Hopefully that fight at the end of the season, hopefully. But yeah, did you guys have any other points about Arya's training montage?
About the scene itself, I think you've covered it there, to be fair, Glenn. You said everything that I was going to say. Um, I also thought that the most interesting part of that scene was when they talked about the Hound. I think it was kind of a thematic thing about Arya's conflicted, and conflicted takes a lot of emotional kind of growth and understanding as well, because she did she used to view things a bit linearly, like she had a list, there were the people she wanted to kill, and you see that she's conflicted in a lot of different ways now. With the Hound, it was like, well, he said all these bad things and he was constantly making threats, but actually all he did was protect me the whole time, look to ransom me back to people that he thought I'd be safe with. And she knew that there's a lot more there. And the Hound's relationship with Arya and Sansa, I think, like quite important. That's why I do buy into Clegane Bull. I also think it makes a lot of sense in every way possible. Talking about, I've mentioned this before, but there's some medieval stuff about brothers inadvertently fighting each other and both of them dying in King Arthur's tales and whatnot. Also, I think like trial by combat. Let's do it again. I've read the 7x7 in Duncan Egg, by the way. I don't think it will be that, Glenn, but that was brilliant. I think them two having a fight will be brilliant. I don't see a reason why they couldn't do it. It's been a bit low in action as it is this season, and for that to build up, I know Jon Snow's come back, so it's like, oh, another person's back from the dead, but he's not back from the dead; he just recovered, and a bit of explanation how the priest restored him or whatever way they want to do it. I also think it'd be brilliant if the Hound comes as the Faith's. Yeah, that's the theory, though, isn't it? Yeah. Glenn, is it the theory that that the Hound is a champion of the Faith? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, the idea is that in Cersei's trial by combat, that she is. This hasn't happened in the book, but it's going like that's what they're building towards. Is that she is going to have a trial by combat, and that she names. At first she tries to get Jaime to help her out, but he rejects her. So she names Robert Strong as her champion, who is the Mountain Reborn, and then the Faith name their champion, which is a lowly gravedigger who really likes dogs and has a burn across his face, which is the Hound. So yeah, and the idea is that the Faith's champion is the Hound, Cersei's champion is the Mountain, and they fight. Just yeah, in case anyone hasn't heard that theory. But yeah, it's one of the only theories that I'm like, other than R plus L equals J, it's the only other theory that I'm like, yeah, that's definitely going to happen. That if that doesn't happen, George R. R. Martin has no idea what he's doing. So yeah, it's an interesting theory that, like you said, it also lends to that idea of old like mythical tales about brothers inadvertently fighting. So yeah, and he's even done that in his other book, The Night of the Seven Kingdoms, where he has Targaryen brothers fighting against each other. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did that again. Yeah, Ryan, what did you think of that Arya scene then?
Again, you've pretty much covered everything. I think it was the best scene of Arya so far this season. I liked the. Oh, there was a moment there where he was like, "Drink this," and it was like, "Is he just giving up on her?" It was it did go like I did go through my mind like, surely he's not just going to let her drink it and kill her. Like what? It's just been an awesome sort of game that they've been doing. But yeah, as soon as I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. Now it's just going to heal her. But again, it's just more build up to what's to come. Where she's going to, it's interesting to know where she's going to go next. If anything from the books to go by, like you said, it might have been jacking at the Citadel or Old Town. Maybe they've got work to do over there. Maybe that's there's some sort of conspiracy assassination thing going on over there. So that would be interesting. As for the scene, I like the montage. It didn't feel too rocky or anything. It felt like time was passing by naturally. It wasn't like it didn't feel like a cop out. It didn't feel like whilst I was watching it, I didn't feel this is really cheap. As I knew they were going to do something, because surely they couldn't just keep showing the scene where she comes along, beats her up. They'd done it twice already. To do it a third time would have just been a joke. But yeah, no, I liked it. I haven't really got much else to say.
Okay, should we move on to Tyrion then? Before we go north, because quite a lot happened. There's two major things that happened, I thought. But yeah, Tyrion. I'm just trying to remember what actually happened, because I think I'm getting confused with episode 2 and episode 3. Did he have the scene with Missandei in this week's episode, or was that something different?
There's 3 scenes in the east. There's Daenerys talking.
Oh yes, there was a Daenerys scene. I completely sorry.
Varys talking to one of the leaders of the Sons of the Harpy, the woman, and there's Tyrion, Grey Worm, and Missandei scene. So there's 3 scenes.
Should we start with Daenerys then? Because I thought that was interesting. Yeah, thanks for reminding me, because I completely forgot about Daenerys, which isn't a good sign. But it was much of what I thought was going to happen. She goes there. They sort of bring her down to their level, saying that her titles. She loves listing off her titles. But they sort of do a similar thing to what the Khalasar did, which was just saying like those titles mean nothing here. And we just get an insight into where Daenerys stands so far in the season. Like we've been saying the past couple of weeks, she's at her lowest point here, and it'd be interesting to see where that goes in terms of the her with the widows of the dead cows. Like, you know, that sort of, will they teach her anything? Will they help her out at all? Or will it just be another, like, Daenerys overcomes things scene? So, yeah, it was interesting. And I do like scenes like that in the show, where it sort of gives cultural insight into certain characters and certain cultures. But in terms of what was said and what actually went on, I don't think much happened, other than the fact it was just showing Daenerys isn't as strong in terms of her ruling at the moment. But she's still the strong character that we always know, but she's not actually got in the Dush Khaleen. She doesn't actually have the say that she usually is used to. Did you guys have any thoughts on like her standing in that?
I was kind of surprised I thought she was going to get there and it's going to be a bunch of old, feeble women. It wasn't going to be these. I know the whole idea is that the Dothraki, they die in combat young, and they've got all these young, beautiful women, and I don't know. I just expected her to get there, and they'd all be really old. They'd be really feeble, and she'd, I don't know, just be really bored, waiting around to be saved or something. This first scene showed that she had absolutely no power here, but I'm speculating that perhaps she might get a hold. She's going to get a foothold in there somehow. Maybe have like a I don't know, a suffragette like a women's uprising, some form of a. I'm not. I mean, there's not going to be like picket signs and that, and it's like women's rights and shit like that. But it's gonna. It would be almost a bit refreshing to see. There's not really a. You've got these. Like we've said before about this, you've got these strong female roles, but it's not really like a whole group of them. That would be kind of cool. But again, they are surrounded by Dothraki armies, but they do go away. They do just leave the women there, so there is a chance there that she's just gonna, I don't know, maybe get too comfortable there. That would be surprising. And then like Jorah and what's his face comes along and it's like, we're here to save you, and she's like, nah, I'm all right. I'm gonna hang out here and do some.
She does a Theon, but without all the torture.
Yeah, with I don't know, sewing of horse's hair or something. Like, nah, I'm good here. I've changed my mind. I don't want the throne. Of course, that's not going to happen. But maybe she'll leave with some extra hands. Who knows? But yeah, the scene itself was all positive for a Daenerys scene. Normally, I can't stand it, but I did like the scene.
Tom?
I don't have anything more to say on Daenerys or the Tyrion scene. Only one I've got some stuff to say is Varys scene. So.
Do you want to kick us off with that then?
Okay. First of all, there's some theories about Varys being the leader of the Sons of the Harpy. Plausible. No, Gordon shaking his head no. But I found the scene itself very interesting. I mean, we've seen people like Ramsay and Tywin, and other people like that, how they deal with women and, you know, people that have deceived them with Shay and whatnot. Like that. I found it interesting. It's like talking about torture and how it's such an ineffective way of getting what you want, basically.
Sorry, Tom. Just about your theory. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that theory you just said about Varys being the leader of the Harpies, it does kind of make sense then that he was just paying her off to get her to go. Like, she was a loose end rather than kill her, pay her off and get her gone. That would be kind of clever. Like, he's the only one that really knew this lead and no one else has known about her. But yeah, gone.
Yeah, I think the Sons of the Harpy thing is something that I just think is plausible, really. I don't necessarily buy into it or out of it. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's plausible, but I think that it's a bit more likely he's got other motives, basically. And I think Varys' motives are more tied with the proletarians, working class, can't think of the name, from small folk, and that his plan, similar to in the books with Vagon, I think that his grand plan is something around, which is my theory for it all, something around the small folk. You know, it's percentage-wise, they are most of it in terms of the East and the West. I think he's got a plan to for equality, basically, of some kind. I think he's the opposite of Littlefinger. Varys does all these horrible things. Littlefinger does all the spies. I think Varys is genuinely what you see in the very first book, which is where you get all the hints. Is like, who do you serve? The realm. The realm. I think he genuinely is trying to secure peace through deceptive means and whatnot. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. But yeah, it was interesting when he talked about torture, and he was saying like, torture someone long enough and they'll tell you what you want anyway. It's not an effective means of gaining information because, you know, if I was accused of raping a girl and then I was like, no, deny it, I didn't do it, of course I deny it. If you tortured me enough, did you do it? Yeah, I did it. Well, I tell you whatever you want, graphic descriptions. Doesn't make it any more real. It's just a ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous way of doing anything. My views on torture. But yeah, so that was interesting. I actually think that Varys is going to kill that woman, and he loves kids. Varys loves kids. Not in that way. He's a eunuch anyway. So, but he loves kids, and I think keep the silver. Mummy has an accident. Oh, he brings up the young child. The young child has no other relatives or whatnot. He just has his mother. So Barry's, they're very useful for how he operates. Basically, he operates as a kind of he is the puppet master and whatnot. So people are, kids are fickle, but they don't have the same intellect. They can be manipulated a bit more easily, a bit more expendable, but useful. That's why I think he's going to kill her, take a child. Mummy had an accident. Of course, it's nothing to do with me. I'll look after her. Yeah, I'll give you shelter. I think he does this with a lot of kids and little birds and whatnot. So yeah, Varys is supremely interesting, and his grand plan has been hinted at several times, but yet to come into fruition. I think it's particularly telling in the books that Littlefinger and Varys don't have POVs, because if they did, we'd find out too much, basically. But yeah, that's what I've got to say on that scene.
Yeah, they work better as the less we know, the more interesting they are. That sort of character, like it'd be a bit annoying if we found out that Varys was just doing it for power or anything. Do you know what I mean? Like the fact that he says it's for the realm. That's it is an outright motive, but it's also a vague motive at the same time. Like the realm's such a vast expansion, but I agree with you. Like he mentions that he's working for the small folk, and I would agree with that. Like that sort of adds to your theory about the democracy and that how. And I wasn't too sold on the Sons of the Harpy theory, but now that you said that he's working for the good of the realm in terms of peasants and people who haven't got that house standing, it would actually make sense that he would want to hinder Daenerys's venture to Westeros, because at the end of the day, when she goes to Westeros, she's bringing dragons and that with her. So that's not exactly going to be a nice thing for this. Like the only people that will suffer at the end of the day is the small folk. They'll be the ones on the battlefield getting scorched by dragons. So it is kind of that it'd be interesting to see that motivation, and if he was involved, because it would make sense for his character to make those decisions. But from my perspective, he's not necessarily involved with it. Like I would more go towards that he is working for Daenerys and with Tyrion in conjunction, because he does like Tyrion. I don't think that's a ploy at all. I do think he respects Tyrion and where he's come from. So despite Tyrion's the fact that he grew up in a wealthy house, I don't think that is anything to do with Tyrion's character. Like he still had to work hard to get back up to actually be respected as a person, and still no one respects him. So I do think Varys is one of the only ones that does respect his abilities as a leader and as also as a person in general. So but yeah, that scene to me was quite interesting to see how Varys does work. Like you said, he's not the guy that would tie you up on a wall and start flaying your flesh. But he's still ruthless in his techniques. Like he still uses he does it funnily. Like he still threatens the woman's son, but also gives her an alternative option to that, and also tells him look, this doesn't need to happen. You can just go. But I like your theory on the fact that he probably is just going to end up killing her and bringing in the child and raising sort of putting the child under his wing and making him another little bird to send off and keep and build that spy network. I think that would be an interesting way to show how he gets his spies. So yeah, but you've pretty much covered all my thoughts on that scene, to be honest, because it was a good scene. It was Varys' first good scene of the season, I think. Did you have any other points to add on that, Ryan?
No, none at all. Yeah, pretty much covered everything.
Did you want to move on to the great Tyrion scene then? Because I feel like it's a theme is happening with you just ranting about Tyrion week after week. So do you want to continue your rant?
No, no rant. I really liked the scene. It was awkward, which was really it was just really nice because it was so awkward. It was just like really wanted to shake all the characters in the scene, and just be like, "Oh, come on, do something like entertaining." I love the callback to the like I think is it like the first season or whatever it is where he's playing that game before.
With Shay and Bron.
Yeah, I really liked that they brought that up again. Um, I thought we were gonna see him mention that, and then actually see everyone kind of let their hair down for a moment, but I was hoping for too much. Um, I, it would kind of have made a little bit more of a sense to see what's his face, Worm guy, actually. I don't know.
Worm guy.
Worm
Grey
guy.
Worm.
Grey Worm. Sorry, yeah. Since after not having reading the books right now, it's just like the characters are just all gone for me. Unless they say them in the episode, I'm like, who's this again? Like name wise, and it was an awkward scene, and then to see that they just have no interests, and I don't know. I said I wasn't going to rant, but now I just feel like there's nothing to talk about in any of these scenes. It's just like
that was my major problem with that scene, is that again, I just thought it was fun. Like, you still got that you still got character development from all the characters in terms of their actual where they like how they interact with other characters. Like, it's quite interesting to see how much of a stick in the mud Grey Worm and Missandei can be in those situations, and like they are slaves, so they've come from that world where these social interactions aren't really their cup of tea. It's also interesting to see like Tyrion still holds on to that side of him, like the wanting to sort of play drinking games, and but it comes from a very depressing like side of his character, where he's still sort of playing those games where he wants to learn more about people, but he's also willing to express himself through drink. So it's kind of interesting to see that he's kind of open in that sense, where as another leader would somewhat be withheld and not be willing to play those games. So but other than that, I thought it was a bit of a nothing scene. I do like Tyrion's interaction with other characters, but I always feel like when he's doing something, there needs to be an action involved with it. Like he needs to be making a decision, or he needs to be moving the plot forward somehow. And I don't feel that scene did actually move the plot forward at all. So I'll be interested to hear Tom's thoughts on it.
The only thing I'll say about that, yeah, I agree that there's not that much to say, is that it just shows Tyrion's personality in terms of he needs interaction, he needs banter. So is Shay and Bronn, where he kind of needs that back and forth between people. He needs to be entertained. He's intelligent though, and he's charismatic, and he's also a hedonist as well. So all of which I love as a character. But yeah, I think that was only a testament to kind of his back and forth with Barrys and other characters like that, where he needs that emotional kind of, I can't think of the right words exactly, engagement of some kind. And it also showed just how hollow and shallow they were, and a product of slavery itself. I think it was a bit of a commentary on that. But apart from that much else, yeah, we can definitely move on.
All right. I feel like all we've got left is the North, but if there's anything else that I think that we're missing, is there anything else?
Joy.
What?
Tower of Joy.
Oh shit! Yeah, I was sort of including that as the North, because I sort of include Bran in the North. But yeah, all right, let's go straight to that then, because yeah, Nah, this is probably my favorite scene in the episode. It was a bit weird to see. Sorry, I'm going off on a bit of a side before we get into this, but it was a bit weird to see Arthur Dane fight with two swords. But I kind of like that addition. But yeah, basically, Tom's not happy with that. I thought it was I thought it was a good scene. I think sorry, it was Bran and Bloodraven visiting the Tower of Joy, where Arthur Dane and the other Kingsguard, who I can't remember the name of, and Ned Stark and a few of his men, including Hallam Reed, go to get back Ned's sister, Lyanna, who is trapped in the Tower of Joy, or if you believe that she's trapped. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was a good scene. Like, the young Ned Stark played it well. He sort of had that cool line where Arthur Dane says, "This is where it begins," and then he says, "And this is where it ends." That was sort of a cool little back and forth. I thought the fight choreography was some of the best we've seen in the show. This was the scene that I wanted with Barris and Selmy, where he's in a room with 6 guys, and he just is so quick and so swift that he manages to kill them all, and without even breaking a sweat. And I thought they did a good job of doing that with Arthur Dane, who in the books is supposed to be one of the greatest fighters in the history of Westeros. Yeah, I know not adding the sword of the is it the sword of the morning, or the sword that he uses, Fallen Star or something. Yeah, I thought that. What's that?
Dawn.
Dawn. That's it. Yeah, it's sword Dawn. I thought that's an addition, like not including that is sort of a weird choice, but also I kind of like the fact that he's fought with 2 swords, because it was the things that I like about Game of Thrones is the sort of different fight styles where you are in the world. Like, that scene with Jorah last season was very cool, because you got to see like 4 or 5 different fight styles in one fight, and I thought it was cool to see like Arthur Dane use that 2-sword fighting style to sort of get one over on his opponent. So the fact that he took out six guys and then had to be stabbed in the back to finish him was, I thought, a cool addition, and it to me it was lifted straight from the books that Howland Reed saved Ned's life. That was a cool scene. I was a bit disappointed that we didn't get the big reveal, but I don't mind that they're prolonging that for a later episode, because it is a big moment, and I feel like maybe if they did include it in that scene, it might have been too much to take in. You're like, oh, why is Ned young? Like, for people that don't read the books, it is kind of weird to see Bran going back in time and not knowing who half these characters are. So, but I like the scene overall. I thought it was the best in the episode. What were your thoughts, Tom?
Ryan's just popped off there. Ryan, keep on. But yeah, I like the fight scene itself, but I feel like, with how renowned Dawn is and how renowned of a knight Sir Arthur Dane is, especially with all that, I feel like it would have been better for him to fight with the legendary sword and the shield. But I'm not that pissed off about it. It's just, I don't know. They just kind of like to change things and whatnot, and maybe they just don't want to put too much kind of mythology or lore, but too much kind of in there specifically for the show, because people just aren't going to understand it or get it or understand the implications. It might not be that much. The scene itself, I thought the young actor that played Ned was really good. And I thought I've watched Spartacus, where they fight with 2 swords, and it kind of reminded me of that a bit, but it was a bit slower. And you talk about different fight styles, but we are in what the closest thing to medieval Europe, and I wanted to see this hacking and slashing that you Westeros do. Serial Pharrell says it is all hacking on slashing, and it should be a dance and whatnot. But I wanted to see the hacking and slashing because that's what it is. That's what it would be. That's what medieval kind of sword plays. So I want to see more of that. I thought it was more of a modern take on what sword play is for a kind of, that kind of glamorized way of fighting. But it was cool. It definitely was cool, and like that we got to see him as such a prestigious, renowned kind of fighter was also very good. I actually like it that they cut it off right there as well. And it was a bit like, Bran really wants to see what happens. The audience really wants to see what happens. But Bloodraven's going to deny us both. And I agree with what you're saying. I think to have both of them in one episode would be a bit overkill, especially early on in the season as well. Cliffhangers work and the server's building up well. We've just got Jon Snow back, so it becomes more and more relevant as the series goes on. But yeah, I did like the scene itself. I just bit nitpicky. I would much prefer him to have had his famous sword. But let's see what Ryan thinks.
I must say that Ned Stark definitely he got better looking with age. It was I mean, it did look like him, but my God, it looked like he had it looked like he. I don't want to say anything because this is going on the internet. So he looked a bit odd. Yeah, the scene, it was really really fun to watch. To see it to see that lie exposed. How Bran's gonna react to that later on down the line? Like, is he gonna start questioning who actually deserves?
Sorry,
I don't know what he's.
Sorry to interrupt you. Just you saying about the lie. Bran actually mentions the fact that he didn't realise his dad didn't beat Arthur Dinn, and his dad got basically his ass kicked, but he always thought that it was the other way around. But also the fact that Ned's honor actually gets brought into question a bit in that scene, where he's sort of hesitating to kill Arthur Dane. Like, he knows it's not. He shouldn't really be executing him because it ended unfairly. It sort of harkened back to the first series when he fights Jaime Lannister and gets stabbed in the back. Like, I thought that was an interesting like, what goes around comes around sort of thing. But yeah, just on that, just when you're saying about like the lies and it does, because Ned's supposed to be wholly honourable, and it's interesting to see how when he was younger, he sort of, those mistakes are a bit easier to make, and that honour might get brought into question when Bran is finally shown what Jon's true heritage is. But yeah, keep going.
I don't think it was so much to do with him being young. I think it was the fact that they had his sister. I think it was the whole family side of it that he kind of forgets his honour. I feel like we might then see that. Well, the fact that they've now, we mentioned it later on, but the fact that his family's pretty much in hostage situations as well. It kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It shows that they can be forgiven or not forgiven. It shows why all of the Starks have a reason for being a little less honourable. I think it gives them an excuse that we as watchers, we also need to feel like we're not rooting for the bad guys at all, and some of the Starks do make bad choices in the past and highly likely in the future as well. Being one of them is hanging people rather than chopping off their heads. I feel like it all shows that we're allowed to like these guys, even though they have lost their honourable roots. I think it's about time that they have the right to, when they've been treated the way they have, but they haven't completely gone wild and murdering people just for no reason. They've still got a bit of morality on them. To see, yeah, I wonder if what flashbacks we will see. Will it be a follow-on from that, like as he goes up into the tower, or these Bran's flashbacks are really nice, but they're a lot more refreshing from any of the scenes we're seeing right now, because
the only thing I'm worried about is that we might get a lot of Robert's rebellion in these flashbacks, and I was hoping they'd leave that for a film or something, because I want to see that like fully realized. But anyway, keep on.
No, honestly, I don't think I've got much more to say. I just, again, more speculating as to where they'll go, but I've done enough speculating.
To know on honour, or my interpretation of the honour in relation to the Starks and whatnot. You're right, Ryan. Ned puts family before honour, always. We saw that in Game of Thrones 1, where he's willing to forsake his own honour and support a false, who he knows factually to be a false king, in King Joffrey. So you know, it's all about doing the right decisions. Honour only goes so far. He does the best in a bad world, and that brings a lot of theme into play about George R. R. Martin says he paints grey characters. In the real world, especially, well, I know it's not the real world, but you know, in his universe, it's got that gritty realism of there's decisions, and not every decision is black and white. Not every decision's easy, even in a moralistic sense. You know, people might suffer from your decisions, but it's just that the Starks, their intentions are, you know, normally what's best for everyone and the right thing to do, the just thing to do. But when it comes to family, they'll probably always put the family first, no matter what. Over the house, the family comes first. The blood related, those that matter most to them. That's something that makes the Starks us be able to emphasise to the Starks even more than we already would do if they were just purely honourable. But yeah, it's like he kind of, I wouldn't say insulted, but went his own way in fantasy. He's got like gritty fantasy with like Joe Abercrombie and stuff has got, and it's definitely different to Tolkien, because he talks about, well, you know, Tolkien just says, well, a good man, someone that's good and wise, and make a good king. But it doesn't necessarily work like that. You've got to make some horrible decisions where, you know, what do you do? How do you appease the small folk and the nobility? How do you make all these ridiculously complex decisions? It's not as easy to say, well, he was a good king and he ruled well for 50 years. How did he rule? What did he do? What did he do when there was plagues, famines? What did he do when other houses wanted to go to war? That's what he's interested in. That's why I find it infinitely more interesting. And the Starks honour system, they're just more honourable than everybody else. They're not perfect in any way. There's no such thing as black and white. Everything's a level of grey. Yeah, that's all I've got to say.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've covered most of that Tower of Joy. What to me, it was the best scene in the episode. But before we move on to the big moment, which was Jon Snow's bit of the wall, we'll just talk quickly about the Boltons and their scene with Ramsay Bolton's scene with the Umbers. I thought there was something great about that scene, and also a bit I don't know, a bit annoying as well. But like, I thought the Small John Umber, it is Small John, I believe. Yeah, I feel like he was that was a good character interpretation. Like, just calling he basically just calls him out. Like he's the only character that I've seen sort of just go toe to toe with Ramsay, and he says, he doesn't say respects him, but he also says, look, I know we should work together, sort of thing. But some feel that it's not wholly what it seems, but I would tend to disagree. I think the Umbers have turned, but I don't know for what reason. I'm kind of confused about their reasoning for siding with the Boltons, other than the fact that it's probably the best option for now. But yeah, the big reveal that we know that Rickon and Usha went to the Umbers, and now they're actually turning over Rickon to Ramsay Bolton. So yeah, my only opinion on that is, okay, it's another Stark or hostage that Bolton has, and it could play in the hands of his negotiation tactics and his trigger to sort of make Jon Snow eventually go and fight the Boltons. So yeah, it was. I'm not too sure about it. I'm not sure whether I'm happy or not about it at the moment. I want to see how it pans out. It's a bit early on to say. And also the big reveal, the big death of this episode: Shaggy Dog is dead. Although people have speculated that that wasn't actually Shaggy Dog because his head's a bit smaller. But I think people are reading a bit too much into that. I think the whole point of that was to show that it's Rickon and he's real. So, but yeah, I don't really have too much opinion on that scene other than the fact that Rickon can never catch a break.
Yeah, I'm going to respectfully disagree with everything you just said, Glenn. I think that it's a plan that, Bran sent Rickon to the Umbers because they were the most loyal. Everything had changed, right? I know that. But they were the most loyal Stark bannermen.
Sorry, just interrupt. That's why I was confused a bit, because they are the most loyal. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that this is a plan, and albeit an extremely dangerous one, not even necessarily a good one, but I think we got a few hints within the episode and within that scene to why Ramsay Bolton is ultimately going to be betrayed. For hints that based outside the fact that he's a bad guy and like he's going to get his comeuppance eventually. First of all, we have that your father was a bastard. You know what he thought of oaths. He says that to him directly to his face, and it's a double bluff basically. Bluff in terms of like it's a double bluff. And when he talks about I'm not going to kneel to you, that also has further significance because he talks about oaths and kneeling and said, what was that to Roose Bolton? He knelt to Robb Stark. But he also, by doing that, when he does eventually betray, or it might not be eventually, but whenever he betrays Ramsay, he never knelt. So he didn't betray any kind of oaths in that way. So he's not on the same level as them. And he talks about his disdain for that. Your father was a bastard. Well, that was a bit of a strange thing for him to say, but I think all of that is based around he's telling him to his face, I'm going to betray you. And Ramsay's he's been so open with this, is so open, it's a kind of double bluff. The other thing is about Shaggy Dog. I'm really not sure what way to go with that. I think there's a lot of possible reasons why Shaggy Dog might be dead. But it could have died from other means, and then they just use his head. But I do think it's a plot, and I do think Usha, Rickon, and Umber is in it because we get so little of Rickon as a Stark. For him to just go there to be a hostage for Ramsay to manipulate or torture or whatnot doesn't even make sense as a plot. And I think it is a double deception, and it works as well because Ramsay's always the one betraying other people, infiltrating other people. So I think a lot of it it's right back to him. Everything that he's trying to do when he infiltrated Winterfell and he pretended to be weak, and we have the deceptions there. But how it's going to play out and all that kind of thing is really hard to speculate on the logistics of it. But yeah, I think that the Umbers are loyal to the Starks, and I think that they're going to find the right way to betray the Boltons, and the Boltons' downfall, like the Lannisters, is coming up. What do you think, Ryan?
In this scene, I loved how cocky he was to him, and just was the way he pretty much, like you said, just saying, I'm gonna betray you." But it's like, why didn't you just lead with the Rickon thing? Like, why didn't you just go, "Hey, look, I've got him"? But it makes sense that he was just like, right, I'm gonna get all of this, like all this nut. I'm gonna call you a cunt and that, and I'm gonna do all of this because at the end of the day, I'm gonna show you I've got this guy. Here you go. We're sort of even now. I've got that off my plate. We didn't side with you before. Fair enough. Blah blah blah. We now need your help. Here we go. Have him. I don't know how long they've had him, so I don't know if that will come into a factor that he's going to be like, well, you didn't hand him over straight away. Why was that? But I don't think he'll turn away the extra hands, especially well, I guess they don't really know the full power of John and the Wildlings just yet. So he could turn them away.
Sorry, Ryan. Do you agree with Tom that the Umbers are like using it as a ploy to overthrow the Boltons, or do you think the Umbers are actually not loyal to the Boltons, but are actually turning over Rickon for an alliance?
The way I read the scene, the way he was just so kind of like half-heartedly like, "Oh, here you go. It's one of the Starks." Maybe it is a trick. Maybe it is just to get trust and get a place by his side. Honestly, I can't really guess. I think there wouldn't be anyone that they would be in contact with, like John or anyone, to know the power of the power of that army that's coming from the north. They just don't know. And he seemed quite legit about how all of his anger towards the wildlings, how he's fought them all his life, and that seemed legit. It could also all have been a ploy just to gain his trust, and who knows, maybe.
Sorry, Ryan. Sorry, I just had a wild thought when you said that. When you said that he doesn't know anyone, I just thought of someone that could be behind this, and it's Littlefinger. Because why do we get the Littlefinger and Bolton's interaction that everyone's been complaining about, pulling a China shop and whatnot? This brings another element to it, and I think Littlefinger in league with the Umbers, definitely a possibility. Littlefinger and Ramsay Bolton, he's going to see that as a very unstable alliance. And Littlefinger at the moment is one of the most powerful men in Westeros. He just needs the what they call Barons. What they call? What's the house of?
What, the Vale?
The Vale, yeah, the Vale. He just needs the Vale Lords on his side and whatnot. But yeah, definitely a possibility. Littlefinger's behind it. Yeah, it is. Well.
Could be. Or yeah.
You just want Littlefinger to be involved. You're just hoping that he's actually in this season.
He is in this season.
I know he is. But I'm just saying, like, you're like, where is Littlefinger? Please let him be involved in the plot.
The whole 4 seasons was him. The whole Stark and Lannister war.
No, I know. I would like that to be the theory, but I'm not sure that it is Littlefinger's motivation to have the Umbers overthrow the Boltons. But yeah, I hope we do get an explanation to why he originally decided to start an alliance with the Boltons, who at that point to me seemed the most easy to overthrow and the weakest. I don't know, like he made them stronger by giving them that, giving them Sansa, giving them all that. So I want to know what Littlefinger's plan was originally.
To be fair though, you say give them a lot. All they give them is one girl.
Yeah, but one girl to unite the North.
Yeah,
That's all.
it,
He didn't know Ramsay would lose her. Do you know what I mean? So.
It's really hard, this, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. What
if it's Rickon? What if Rickon's behind it, or he's secretly really powerful, but he's like no longer that weak little kid?
He's just the first day he met the Umbers. He's like, right, I've got a plan, lads. Come on, you're the most loyal House of the Starks. Little Rickon's like dictating all the northern houses to overthrow the Boltons. Yeah.
The timing's really odd for him to. Do you know what I mean? Do you not think timing-wise that they've been there a hell of a long time for him to finally discover the true identity and Shaggy Dog? Seems like with just Osher and Rickon, it just all seemed a bit fishy, the account that they give, and I feel like they're kind of in a good position against the bastard of Bolton.
Yeah, I hope you're right that Umber's got a plot to overthrow Ramsay, but I don't know. Like you said, I hope we get an explanation to why if that is Shaggy Dog's head. If it's not, it's a massive wolf. So I don't know how they're going to explain that. But yeah, if did he die of natural causes? I hope there's a lot of explanation to come from this scene, and I hope we get it rather than then just use Rickon as a ploy for other characters to get involved in the fight. If you know what I mean.
But Ramsay's never seen a direwolf before as well, so.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. So yeah, if he just saw a big wolf's head, he might think that is a direwolf. Yeah, that's not.
We have pups of all the direwolf. Yeah, and Nymeria was in the wild, and there's definitely possibilities or potentials there for it not to be as obvious as it was as it just showed it. But like I said, none about this whole episode based on lies and deception. I think this was a setup for a lot.
Yeah.
Nearly everything we've been told, in my opinion, has been lies, and I don't know. The kind of mood of the episode was that. Did you not feel that everything that we've been told, because it seemed so obvious? Do you not think there's more to it? A lot of that.
Well, yeah, it was called Oathbreaker, so there might be a little hidden hint to the fact that people aren't doing what they're actually saying on face value. So yeah, I like that idea that this episode was very much about like you said, the lies. Because I didn't really think about that when I was watching it, but you saying it, I would agree with that argument. But yeah, should we move on to Jesus then, or is there anything else happening north? No. All right. Yeah. Let's move on to Jon Snow's resurrection then. We got an interesting scene at the start of the episode with Davos sort of staring at Jon Snow, and then him sort of explaining what happened. He immediately comes to the realization, oh, my own brothers killed me, and that's not right. I'm not happy about this. And also we get Melisandre immediately going, oh yeah, Stannis was a phony. You're the prince that was promised. I will follow you into the depths of hell. All that, So she is wholly behind Jon Snow at this point, which would be an interesting alliance or tutelage. Because for some reason I feel like Jon won't adhere to the idea that he's Azor Ahai. He'll sort of just pass it off. He's not really. He's more humble than that, so he won't exactly take on the mantle of Azor Ahai. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, but I feel like that idea that Melisandre has that he's the prince that was promised. I feel like when she puts that to him, he'll sort of reject it and not want to take that mantle up. So that's an interesting thing. But we finally got what you've been wanting all this time, Ryan. The death of Ollie.
Yeah, but he does do it sort of like, and no, I've got to kill you. Like, he doesn't do it like, fuck you, you fucking stabbed me, and like chops off his head. It's just like, oh yeah.
Well, he is still honourable at the end of the day. Like, I feel like he made that decision more out of the fact that they broke the Night's Watch vow rather than actually killed him. I feel like that wasn't revenge killing. That was him.
Oh, yeah, no, that's my problem.
Because they broke the vow.
Yeah, that's my problem. He should. I mean, I can't talk. If someone was to screw me over, like I can't. Obviously, I can't say if someone killed me and then I came back, I was like, I'd kill him. But like, I know if it was me, I'd be like, I wouldn't be that harsh, yeah. But this is fantasy. He has just been killed by these people. Why does he feel so bad about killing him? I know it's a kid, yeah. And I know he feels like he let him down because of his parents being killed by the very people that he's now teamed with. But I'm just glad he's gone, honestly. But who knows, he could be back if they don't burn the bodies.
He did say immediately after burn the bodies, so
yeah.
you'd think they'd have the knowledge to do that. Although it would be kind of cool to see like dead Ollie come back and fight with the whites.
It would have been better. He was like,
you can get him double murdered.
Fucking burn that body. I don't want to see him coming back to me in my sleep. But that's the thing. Does Jon Snow sleep now? Does he have to sleep, or is he just like a permanent like awake when you come back? Do you need food? What do you need when you've been brought back like that?
These are all good points. Actually, there's not really something that I actually thought about. I'm sure, yeah, if he's just like back from the dead, he doesn't need sustenance.
Do you need
although
to eat
the thing
brains?
is, you can die again. So
yeah,
but maybe all his bodily functions still work when you bring him back.
Do you need to eat brains though, and like do you have to become like a cannibal, like zombie thing? Who knows? But yeah, the scene with Melisandre before as well. Again, I don't want to see him being all whiny about becoming this Prince of Light, and he's either just puts up with her and goes, "Fine, call me what you want, but we're going to do this my way." Hopefully he's just not pissing about for too long. I think again, I've forgotten his name, the red-haired guy.
Tormund.
That's it. I feel like he's gonna kind of shake him into his senses pretty quickly, or at least try to. It's going to be a mixture of him and Davos. Again, I think as for killing people off, I feel like Davos he would be the saddest to see gone. I think he's such a great character, but I feel like there's not much more use to him at the moment that I can see. I know in the books he's actually been sent off to look for Rickon. Is that right, or am I wrong on that bit?
He goes to White Harbour.
Yeah, so he does. Why is he there to look for Rickon, or?
To talk to Wyvern Manderley.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with him. I feel like he is going to be he's one of the more important characters that we're going to see go, just because they're going to have to get rid of someone, and he's going to pull at the heartstrings the most. I think he's quite a loved character, but has the least to lose.
I feel like he's going to be what he was before with Stannis. but with John now. I feel like he's going to be that advisory role, the one who sort of thinks outside the box.
Do you think John's going to listen to him more than Stannis did then?
See, John's very stubborn as well, so maybe not. Maybe we'll just get a similar sort of style with that. But yeah, no, I feel I know what you mean by like it would be a heartfelt moment where if he ever does like die or go or anything. But for some reason, I feel like he's got a lot more to do in the story. But yeah. Did you have any more thoughts on that scene, or?
My end. I've said it already, but I'll just end on. I just don't want him to be pussyfooting about for too much longer. I want him to get up and go, to do. I'm not saying that things there aren't interesting, but I don't want them to linger too long on his coming to terms with him being alive. I feel like I just want. We saw how badass the was it actually the Red Priest? Or again, sorry, I've forgotten the names, but the other guy that was brought back to life. We see how good of a fighter.
Eric Dondarrion.
Yeah, we see how. I know he kind of keeps to the shadows and everything, but how zero fucks given. He's just so he's so happy to be alive and that, and I yeah. Hopefully he'll come to the terms that he's alive, mate. And I don't know. We haven't seen much of him change just yet. It's only been a few scenes, but I want to see that part of him that's supposed to be missing. That part of you is gone when you are brought back. But again, all of that is to come.
Yeah, I feel like we will get that. Tom, what were your thoughts on the both scenes really? John, Melisandre, and Davos, and then later when he executes 4 of the Night's Watch, including Ollie, and then eventually says that his watch has ended. What do you think of
that? I thought this scene with Davos, Melisandre, and John was kind of interesting when Davos was like, "Can I have a minute with him now?" Because it was like Davos used Melisandre to bring him back, and then was like, "Right, but them two never got on," and whatnot, and then he was like, "Yeah, I've got no use for you anymore," because he doesn't believe in all the kind of spiel that she's always sprouting all the time. And I thought that kind of was like a nod to the fact that there's not going to be any heroes of old or legends like that coming back, because of Davos's reaction and how like he quickly closed the door on that. I feel like there was like closing the door on his theories of Azor Ahai or anything like that, Lord of the Light and whatnot. So yeah, I think that's what they were doing in the show, and I think that's probably what they'll do. I don't think Jon Snow's going to kill his wife or whatever, stab her with a flaming sword or anything like that. But I think what it did show is that there is magic and it is powerful, but that doesn't necessarily equate to gods or ancient figures or anything like that. I think that's what that scene was about. Ryan called it, by the way, with the mass execution, and I was like way off. So props for that. But I actually really liked the way they did that as well. And having thought about it, I was talking about how Jon and Ollie might begin to build a relationship, but I don't even like that idea anymore as it is. And I don't know, he seemed older as well, Ollie. So, he was old enough to kill someone, you're old enough to get hanged. So I like the way they did it as well. It was kind of a bit gritty and it sort of strangling. And Alistair Thorne gave his speech, kind of showed about how he was that very kind of straightforward character, and he says, if I had the chance I'd do it all again. And I kind of respected him because, he's not cowardly. He's not like Jenna Slint hiding in the kitchen when the wild ones attack. He's just a man of his own principles, and he believes what he believes, and he's seen what the wild ones have done, and it kind of reminds me of a kind of a old school old man that's kind of set in his ways and can't see the new future. The old people tend to be bad at change, worse than young people at changing and the environment around them, and they're kind of very stuck in their old ways. But you can kind of respect them because it's just who they are, and respect someone's ability to have an opinion, no matter how misguided it might be. Is a case of Tomm. When he did the mic drop, my watch has ended. Blah blah blah. I thought it was a bit corny. I thought it was more modern again. It was a bit like catering to, I don't know. It's not my type of scene, but I thought it was fine.
Sorry.
I also,
Just a quick question. Can Lord Commanders just name other Lord Commanders? Is that... No, I was going to say, like, he just goes, "You're the Lord Commander now," and no one says, like, no one goes, wait, no, we need to vote on this, all right, mate? Because I was a bit confused about that. So
yeah,
So
but
do you think it's broken up? Do you think he's just ended all watch? Like,
I think he's just ended his watch because he does name what is it, the one that's not Gren and Pip. I can never remember his name. Yeah, he does name him Lord Commander, but like I said, I don't think he can do.
but yeah. So, and he was like, walked out the southern entrance, which is obviously going south. And I was like, yeah, you and whose army, Jon Snow? who do you think you are? You need allies. Where do you think you're going? He's going to have to come back and be like, wildlings, does anyone fancy taking back, killing the Boltons or whatever? Like, where are you going there? Good for dramatic effect, but logistics of it. Now what? Have you got a horse with you? Better take provisions. Davos is talking about food. I thought it like. I actually think, what next episode does he just turn back around and be like, "Who's with me?" I thought that was a bit. But I'm sure everyone else loved it. But yeah, I'm a bit cynical with that kind of stuff. I love the little intricacies of shows and the action scenes, but I hate stuff like that. I don't know. It's like anytime it's D&D and not George R. R. Martin. George R. R. Martin can just quote lines again and again and again. And when D&D tried to write characters, it's just like Tyrion saying, "That's what I do. I drink and I know things." Well, yeah.
That is a T-shirt now. But what do you think it would have been improved by like a guitar solo at the end or something, or like he put on some sunglasses? I didn't really think about it.
There's been like memes and stuff where he's got sunglasses on, but that's what it was like, wasn't it? But I thought the point itself that they were making about his watch has ended, so it's no longer bound to the Night's Watch anymore. Opens up a lot of plot lines and themes because Ned Stark, Jon Snow, honour, vows, etc., etc. He doesn't have to obey them vows anymore, so that part of it is very interesting. But to me, the logistics are important, and is one man against 50,000 or whatnot. What do you think? What do you think about both of you? What do you think about the logistics of Jon Snow versus Boltons and how it all ties in? And is he just going to fight them solo?
No, I don't think he's gonna fight him solo. Although that would be pretty interesting. But he just turns up on the battlefield on his own, like, "Come at me!" But no, I think from what I've seen from the promotional stuff, like the trailers and that, we do see a big battle. So I feel like he will unite some of the men, and I can't really go too much into it because it's a bit. I've seen the next episode, so I can't really say anything. but yeah, no, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything. Should we just go into predictions now? Because I feel like we've covered Jon Snow's.
You can't predict anything, you bastard.
No, I know. That's what. Yeah, I was saying. You two can predict, because I'm kind of interested to see what you two said. But yeah, the logistics of it. Yeah, I feel like he will try and build an army. But Ryan, what would be your opinion on the logistics of?
Just Jon Snow, like where he's going to go in that. I feel.
Yeah.
He's gonna go on, find some wildling brothel and see if everything's still working down below since he's been brought back from the dead, and he'll be like, "Oh, Ygritte, where are you?" And then he'll be like, "Oh, what if I can bring Ygritte back?" He'll be like, "Oh, Ygritte, where are you?" And then it'll be like going to the woman, and you'll be like, "You can bring Ygritte back," and she'll be like, "Nah, I can't. It's too late for that."
What burnt shard Ygritte? That he burned.
Oh yeah. Well, you don't know. She was burned, so technically it's the Lord of the Light, the fire. Who knows? Just bring her back from the fire. I don't know. I'm just making it up now. I don't know. He's going to go off to the wildling camps, drink whatever with them. It's been a while since. I know he hasn't really been the most strictest Lord Commander, but
the Wildings were there. He just walked away from them. Tormund and Co was there.
Oh yeah, but he's going to go back to the camps, whatever. Like their camp, they're not just going to come back to Castle Black and just camp out there. They are going to. I feel like they've got camps nearby, surely. That's my prediction for Jon Snow. As for the rest of everything, God knows. I know that Littlefinger's going to be in this episode, so there's more lies and shit going on there. Who knows?
Is that your big prediction? Littlefinger manipulates. You're not really breaking the mold there.
Fucking hell.
Honestly, I just I don't know.
What do you think?
I don't know if it's just me. It's just me feeling right now. I'm just feeling like I want the book. I don't want the show. I want the book. That's what I'm saying right now.
You've gone from like enjoy it at the start, now you're pissed off. I don't know what did we say to wind you up.
Doing this has made me think about it far too much, and I'm just like, this isn't what George R. Martin wanted, surely. Like,
yeah, I agree. I'm actually completely in agreement with Ryan. A lot of stuff that's happening, I'm like, oh god, I wish this was George's material, because you just so a lot of the stuff they're doing, you think, well, that were a fucking waste of time. Oh, you fucked that up, and like, right, it's his universe, his story, his characters, all of the plot that he built, everything like that. In my mind, don't know if you two agree, but is a genuine masterpiece in terms of both storytelling and intrigue and symbolically, thematically. There's so much in there, in every single one of them. That's why it takes him so long to write them. And this is like, you can kind of, it's like, I always put it on a kind of pedestal of its own, but then like with D&D's writing, you compare it to other stuff, and like there's other directors and producers that can make better shows and better things. So I suppose I just need to start looking at it in terms of compare it with other TV shows and I don't know, it's really hard because it's his world. They're making it off him, so it's all so interlinked. But they're not as good as mine. They can't tell a story as well. They don't understand his characters. He understands them more than they ever could. People say, yeah, well, they've had a lot of talks. Yeah, they've had talks, but they don't understand the ins and outs of. I know the fans, but it's his mind and it's all his. In my opinion, he's a genius and they're not. Sorry, go on, Ryan.
Yeah, it's not to say that they haven't done things right in the past. I mean, the show right now, it's a good show in that, but it's the not knowing of how people are really feeling that you can get from the POV in the books. If that scene with Jon Snow, that last scene, we would. Who knows? He might do, if he does that scene in the book, he might do it through Davos's perspective and watching Jon. But I would prefer one where it's Jon's perspective, knowing exactly how Jon is feeling or what he's thinking. We just don't get that in the show, and I know there's nothing they can do about that. I mean, I would fucking hate it if all of a sudden it just goes into like a voiceover of Kit Harington just being like, "Oh, should I really be doing this?" Like, that would be awful. But yeah, I just can't wait till the next book. That's all.
No.
This is all too teasing.
You talk about point of view, but that's with the platforms. That's different as well. It's like George R. R. Martin has said how like you can have scenes between characters that aren't POV characters in the books. Like he talked about how he really liked a scene between Cersei and Robert in the first one where they talk about the marriage and stuff like that. Because they're not POV, you can't get them. But you just cannot get the depth as his literature in a TV show. You just can't get it. You just can't get the deep characterization. You just can't get the plot, the intrigue. You just can't do as much because it's a time thing as well. If you put all of the content in his, think how long it would be. But that's the difference between platforms. So in my mind, I'm just kind of trying to look at it as a different.
EastEnders can do it. Coronation Street can do it. I know obviously they're not based on books, but they can go for God knows how many years and do like an episode, like 3 to 5 episodes every week. So why can't we just?
I'm just like,
I don't think the budget of Game of Thrones is the same as EastEnders. Like.
I know, but I'd happily go for a. Well, no, I don't. I can't actually say this and put my whole heart towards it. I was going to say I could happily go with a lower budget weekly, like 3 to 5 episodes a week of Game of Thrones. That would be maybe pushing it too far. Can you imagine like a live episode? You know when they do those live episodes of Coronation Street and that.
Yeah.
Imagine if they did. Game of Thrones one.
Live Dragon.
Like the little green ball on a stick. It's like oh no, I'd.
So, but right, okay, let's get episode ratings because I feel like you two have just now realised that you don't like this show or something. So I'd like to hear. Did you two like this episode?
I think we're
ahead, Ryan. You
pissed off that you know a bit too much than us because you've seen the film that's in this week's episodes. So, but the rating for this episode, I don't know. I was really generous with last week. It's been too long, right? I feel like it was fresh in my mind that week. This week, I don't know, like. That flashback scene does boost it up quite a bit. I'd say 7.5. I'd go for 3/4. It was less than last week, definitely.
5.
Ooh.
5?
Ooh.
Really? What
Move on.
I feel like you gave episode 2 like an 8 or something, and now you're giving this one a 5. What's your reasons for such a low score?
He did an absolutely brilliant job last week, and I know there's people. It's not because there's a lack of action. Action scenes are neither here nor there for me. It was just the. It's like, right, okay, Tower of Joy is not their work. That's why that was so good. Except I know dual wielding or not, but everything that they have are in control of. They don't do a good job of at the moment in that episode. Not always. So like you judge the episode and the show and D&D on this stuff that's within us, not on the books, what they're doing, because they have a limited time, I know, but how are they adding to it? And every time it's this flat scene between Tyrion and Missandei and Grey Worm or other characters, and I don't know. I feel like anything they try to do with their own. By the way, Dawn, don't. I'm not letting y'all forget about that. Like, I think we can criticize them, and I don't think that. I think a lot of the time they get it right, and a lot of the time they don't. And it's too often they don't do a good job on their own, standing on their own 2 feet. They don't do it. That's why, in my opinion, there's just been a general decline as well. When it was purely just going off Martin's books, it was epic, and every week it was absolutely everybody loved it. It was like everyone would be giving 9s and 10s and 10s. You would like some of the previous episodes have been a lot better than this. Like, we're kind of looking at it now and being sympathetic, but when it was purely Martin's work. But yeah, I'm rambling on. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, no, I'd probably give it the same rating as I'd give the first episode. I thought, for some reason, when the first episode was introductory, then the second.
Which is what?
What my rating is? About a 7, probably 7 out of 10. I'd probably say like the first episode was introductory.
I've given it the highest now. That's not right. Go on then, I'll move mine to a 6. I'm not giving it the highest. I don't enjoy this more than you.
No, I would probably agree with you guys. Like, there was a lot of scenes that just sort of fell flat. Like, I felt like I was sitting through a lot of scenes to get to the good stuff, and that should never be the case with Game of Thrones. For me, every scene should have importance and drama, and just you should be on the edge of your seat every scene. I think even if it's not action, even if it is just Tyrion sitting around the table talking to people, that should have some sort of impact for later plot, later storyline, later character development. It should, and like, especially like Tyrion stuff in season 4, let's say, like when he was going through the trial and everything, every single scene was just something seemed to be happening. Like, his friendship with Bronn ended in like respect. Oberyn stood up to the challenge. So when we get these Tyrion scenes, and I'm not just picking on Tyrion, but the other scenes that we get where it's like it doesn't do that drama and intrigue, then it does fall flat. But I still enjoyed the episode. Tower of Joy was one of the best scenes of the season so far. Arya's scene was really good.
6.
6.
Really good.
Yeah, and I thought they did a good job of introducing Jon Snow again back into the series. So overall, I thought it was average. So
it's really funny that Bran's scenes were probably one of the most boring ones to have, and now
but it's not because of Bran, though.
Yeah. They've turned it round, and using other characters' stories made his scenes more interesting. But
by the way, you said average 7. 6 is average. 7's average.
No, but I like to be generous. 7.
And I give 9 to the Unfall. So.
No, episode 2's been my highest rated, and that was an 8. So, yeah, I'll keep it in that range, and I'll only give 9s and 10s to the real good ones. So, yeah, like I said, it was okay. It was just above average then. But what do you guys have any big? Yeah. Do you guys have any big predictions for the next episode?
Me and Ryan to give predictions. We haven't seen episode 4, have we? So, Ryan, come on, big prediction. Let's go.
Oh no! What? They didn't really tease much. I think I can't really remember watching the next time. All I remember is seeing Littlefinger. Let's say.
What do you think he's up to?
What do I think he's up to? So you're telling me they show at least a little something of what he's planning. You're not going to tease me.
I didn't mean it like that. I just meant.
Oh, okay.
What do you think, Littlefinger?
I think Littlefinger is. making some sort of time machine and.
Go on, Tom.
I can't think of anything. And honestly, it's just what Littlefinger is probably doing is probably going to be the most obvious thing of the Umbers and that. Like that just seems so out of nowhere. Like you said, Tom, it's just so random all of a sudden that Rickon's there and that. To have that sudden appearance of him, surely he knew that he was still alive. Surely he's got something up his sleeve to do with the Umbers and Rickon. Other than that, I mean, does he know that Sansa escaped and everything? I think he's with the Rickon and Umber thing. But yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah. Well, that I think counts as my prediction, really, Glenn. With the Littlefinger and Umbers are in league together. It's hard to say. I can't. That's a pretty big prediction. I'm going to stick with that. They're in league, and Umbers are going to betray the Boltons. And also, my other prediction before, because we had no Greyjoys, I don't feel like it was wrong. I just feel like I'm just carrying that on, even though I'm not sure about it. It's just speculation. But that's why we do these videos for.
Yeah. You think we'll eventually get that scene then, or some sort of plot development with the Greyjoys, like in terms of either what was your specific thing about that again?
This season, Euron assassinates Theon. In logistics, that's too hard to go into, but before the end of the season, yeah.
I completely forgot about the Greyjoys. I don't think he'll assassinate him, but he'll use him as some sort of like model to the rest of the house, or whatever you would call them, the clan house. Look what the Greyjoys have become. Like, look at what your leaders so far have become. They've been degraded to what they've been degraded to, and he'll just become another slave, and it's just it'll start becoming like oh Theon, and like it's like that's me, and like pouty face and like oh I think he's just gonna. I don't think he'll assassinate. Why would he assassinate him? Sorry, why do you think he'll do that?
Because he's to the Iron Islands, isn't he?
Yeah. Do you think people would follow him though? Like, do you think that he would think that their people would actually follow him? They don't seem like a very honourable.
Not necessarily, but it ties up loose ends, and it's another pretender to the sea stone chair that he doesn't need or want. Actually, Osha, Yara. Their connection, I think Euron's going to do his best to sever all them kind of their support.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, then it makes sense. Like he wouldn't want the heir to be hanging around, especially when this house is purely it's all about stealing from your foes, and he technically would be a foe. So. But yeah, no.
Right, let's. Is that it then?
Yeah, I think we've covered everything. Ryan, if you just hit stop broadcast, that should do it.
Cool.
And then give me a ring because I need to talk you through what you do after that.
Okay, man.
All right. We'll see you this week then. Hopefully, because we've done it out of order. But yeah, okay. You
shouldn't have watched it, and we should have done a live broadcast as we all watched it. That's what we should have done.
Oh, I'm an eager beaver, alright? It's my only day off. I'm going to watch it. Right. Yeah. Alright. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.